Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Nick makes a deal with Jack and takes Matt prisoner. He puts Matt in the trunk of his car. At Crimson Lights, Billy talks to Sally. Tells her that Kane offered him the job of Chancellor. Sally reminds Billy that they just started their media company, so she is surprised by this news. Billy says he is still committed to their media company. Sally does not believe him. She thinks he is planning something behind her back. Billy says that is not true. He has not been plotting anything. Sally thinks Billy has been lying to her and to himself about what he wants to do. She feels silly for trusting him in the place. Nick and his deal with Jack is still on his mind. What he did to Matt is not right. Billy and Sally have a lot to figure out about their media company and their relationship. When Sally and Billy get home, Sally does not want Billy to act like Sally is overreacting. Billy tells Sally that Sally's feelings are important, and Billy wants to hear what Sally has to say. Billy says Billy has told Kane that Kane needs to think about what Sally and Billy will do. Kane and Phyllis say they have control of Newman. Sally is not convinced by what Kane and Phyllis are saying. Sally can see why Kane wants to get at Victor, but Sally does not understand why Kane would offer Victor Chancellor. Billy says all of this is an idea, and it might never actually happen. She is still really upset about it. She wants to know what he will do if the offer is real. "You're going to take it, are you not?" she says. He thinks they need to talk about this for a time because he wants to know what Sally thinks. Sally does not understand why he does not understand. Her concerns are about their partnership. Sally points out that if he becomes Chancellor, Victor will go after him, and Sally does not want to see that happen to the partnership. Sally thinks that Victor will try to hurt him if he gets the job. Billy thinks that he and Victor are always going to have problems. He says that Victor will always try to cause trouble for Billy. Billy believes that if he becomes the Chancellor, it could be good for both Billy and Victor. She is concerned that Billy only wants to be Chancellor to get at Victor, not to make things better. Billy and Victor argue about Billy's mom trying to help with Abbott Communications. She does not think this conversation is helpful because Billy is acting like he has not made a decision. She thinks Billy has already made up his mind about what he wants to do with Billy being the Chancellor and how it affects Victor. Sally really loves him. Deep down, she thinks that if he says yes to Kane's offer, it will be a huge mistake for him. They just keep fighting about his mom because he thinks she is trying to boss him around. He gets loud, says he is not mad, and does not care. Billy thinks Sally is trying to get in the way of what he wants. Spectra is convinced that he will do whatever he wants no matter what anyone else thinks, and that is all that matters to him. He tells Spectra that she is wrong about what's really important to him. Sally and him just cannot agree on this. He says she does not understand what he really wants. Sally thinks that they should keep their life and business life separate. This is really bothering her because she feels like her opinion does not count. If he decides to take the offer from Kane, Sally will be very upset. So she just gets up, walks out. Michael is talking to Victor on the phone at Society. He hangs up the phone when Diane comes over to him. Then he tells her about the gift that Fenmore sent to him. It is a bunch of ships in bottles, and it is really annoying him. He has been trying to get rid of these ships in bottles, but it is driving him crazy. She wants to know what is going on with Victor's plans. Michael says that Victor is not going to attack Jabot soon. He probably should not be telling her this. Victor's problems are just as big as Jabot's problems. The computer system at Newman has started working against them from the inside. Diane says that Jack thought this might happen. She explains that Victor got a text message that really upset him. She thinks that Victor is really worried now, and that means Jabot is safe for now. She feels sorry for Victoria and Nick and Abby. She does not feel sorry for the rest of the people at Newman. Michael is having some issues with the mustache. She thinks that this attack is going to make Victor more dangerous and unpredictable. Diane believes that Victor is going to be angry with Kane and Phyllis for now. The lawyer is being very secretive, not saying anything. Diane is happy that Phyllis will have to deal with Victor's revenge because she thinks Phyllis is an enemy who deserves to be put in her place. Carl goes home, talks to his dad about the problems that Victor must be facing with the mustache. Diane thinks that Victor will take revenge on Phyllis and Kane because of the mustache. Kyle and his dad are discussing what Victor will do to the people who are against the mustache. Diane is off trying to get some answers. Jack does not think Michael will tell them anything. They start talking about Claire, and Kyle says he has not even had time to think about Claire. Since there is no sign of anything happening, Kyle is wondering if it is time to put Jabot back online. Then Nick shows up. Says he is there to save his family. Jack helps Nick sit down. He cannot believe Nick is out of the hospital already. Jack tells him that they have Nick in a mystery location, where nobody can find him. This is not good enough for Nick, who wants Matt handed over now. They will not tell Nick anything until they have assurances from Victor. Nick says they do not know what they're dealing with. Jack repeats that he will not hand over Matt until he gets the artificial intelligence, so he can destroy the artificial intelligence. Nick admits that Jabot is the thing on his father's mind right now. Jack wants to know more about the situation. Seeks more information about Matt. The Newman family remains only concerned about Matt. Clark is a problem for everyone in the family, and that means Harrison could be in trouble too. Jack thinks Victor is the one who can stop all of this from happening. Nick is really upset. He wants to make sure that Clark does not hurt anyone else. He says he needs to stop Clark for good. They tell Nick that they are watching Matt all the time. Nick does not think that is enough. Kyle says he can take Nick back to the hospital if he wants. Then Nick says he will make a deal with them, the deal that his dad would not make. If they let him have Matt, then he will make sure Jabot is safe. Nick really wants to protect Jabot. He is willing to do what it takes. Nick goes back to the ranch, picks up some rope. Then he goes into Sharon's place, takes her tea towels. When he comes out, Noah comes downstairs because he heard a noise. He looks around. Then he leaves. Noah runs after his dad, sees that Matt is tied up and gagged in the trunk of his car. Nick does not want to give Matt to the police because Matt could get in trouble. Noah wants to know what his dad is going to do with Matt. Jack and Kyle go home. They think they made the right decision to work with Nick. Jack assumes that Victor is scrambling right now. Diane joins them and confirms that Victor is too busy fighting for his legacy than to worry about them. Jack hopes that's true but worries Michael could be feeding them a red herring. Diane is confident in Michael. She's thrilled that Victor is being karmically paid back. They need to get back to business and put the company online. Jack insists they need to wait until they are safe. Nick Newman crosses a line he swore he no way would, striking a dangerous deal with Jack Abbott that binds two longtime rivals together in a web of falsehoods, all for the sake of guarding family and burying a verity that threatens to destroy everything they've erected. It begins with Nick reeling from the rearmost exposures about Matt, a man whose shadowy history and changeable alliances have turned him into a ticking time lemon, someone who knows far too important about Victor's covert moves, about the blood ties no bone was supposed to uncover, and about a chain of crimes that could shoot half of Genoa City's power players to captivity. And as Nick pieces together just how close Matt is to exposing it all, fear tightens its grip on him. Not sweat for himself, but sweat for Victoria, for Adam, for the fragile remnants of the Newman heritage that have formerly been bombarded by reproach and treason. Meanwhile, Jack Abbott is fighting his own war, visited by miscalculations, driven by guilt, and obsessed with control as Jabot teeters on the edge of chaos. And when Jack realizes that Matt is the common denominator hanging both families, he makes a move so advised and cold it sends chills through indeed the most toughened players, still reaching out to Nick with an offer that feels less like a deal and more like a pact with the devil. Help me neutralize Matt, and I'll make sure the verity no way sees the light of day. Nick originally recoils, his moral compass screaming that this is wrong, that hijacking and silencing a man, indeed a dangerous one, is a step too far. But as the walls near in and Matt grows bolder, riding Nick with half-spoken trueness and veiled pitfalls, Nick realizes he's running out of options, and in a moment of raw, tortured resoluteness, he agrees to Jack's terms, ignorant that this decision will hang him long after the night is over. The plan unfolds with nipping perfection as Nick lures Matt into an isolated parking structure under the guise of a tense but civil meeting, the air creaking with implied hostility as Matt smirks, induced he holds all the power, ignorant that Jack's operatives are watching from the murk, and when Matt turns his reverse for just an alternate, Nick acts, adrenaline surging as he strikes, subduing Matt in a brutal struggle that leaves both men shaken. The weight of what Nick has done crashing down on him indeed as he drags Matt's unconscious body toward his auto. The image is stark and horrifying. Nick Newman, once the moral center of the Newman clan, forcing a man into the box of his vehicle, hands pulsing as he slams it shut, the sound echoing like a projectile in the empty structure, sealing not just Matt's fate, but Nick's innocence as well. As Nick drives through the darkened thoroughfares of Genoa City, rain blurring the windshield like gashes he refuses to exfoliate, his mind races with recollections of his father's ruthless tactics, the veritably styles he spent times condemning, now imaged in his own conduct, and the consummation hits him with crushing force. This is how it starts. This is how men like Victor Newman are made. One terrible choice justified by love and fear. Jack, for his part, watches events unfold from a distance, his face a mask of grim satisfaction and slightly contained fear, knowing that formerly Matt is out of the picture, his own secrets about commercial sabotage, about accidental deaths, about backstabbings that could bring him everything, might eventually stay buried. Yet indeed Jack can't ignore the troubling sense that this alliance with Nick is erected on mesh, fated to collapse the moment one of them blinks. Matt ultimately regains knowledge in the suffocating darkness of the box, fear setting in as he pounds on the essence walls, his muffled whoops unheard over the roar of the machine, and in that intimidating insulation, he realizes too late that he undervalued Nick, that the man he allowed was predictable and principled has proven able of commodity far darker, commodity far more dangerous. When Nick eventually stops the auto at a remote position arranged by Jack, the pressure is unsupportable, the silence heavy as guilt as Nick opens the box and comes face to face with Matt's fury and fear, a battle charged with raw emotion as Matt spits allegations, calling Nick a fraud, a sissy hiding behind family fidelity to justify getting a felonious, and those words cut deeper than any trouble because Nick knows they're true. Jack arrives moments laterally, his presence shifting the power dynamic incontinently as he coolly lays out the terms of Matt's prison, making it clear that this isn't about vengeance, but about constraint, about keeping an unpredictable verity locked down until it can no longer do detriment. And as Matt realizes Jack's part in all of this, his rage turns to bitter horse laugh, mocking the idea that either of them can control the fallout. Once people start asking questions, back in Genoa City, subtle ripples begin to spread as Matt's unforeseen exposure doesn't go unnoticed, with Phyllis seeing commodity as wrong, her instincts screaming that Jack is lying when he feigns ignorance, and Victor, ever the puppet master, catching a trace of peril as his sources report unusual movements, egging him to wonder whether Nick has eventually embraced the ruthless side of his Newman heritage. The emotional risk on Nick is immediate and ruinous as he struggles to look his family in the eye, snapping at those he loves, visited by fancies of Matt trapped in the darkness, and the question of how far he'll have to go to keep this secret gnaws at him relentlessly. Jack, too, begins to unravel under the strain, his alliance with Nick forcing him to defy the man he's come, one willing to orchestrate hijacking and imprisonment in the name of control, and as the days pass, cracks form in their uneasy pact, with distrust stewing just beneath the face, each man wondering who'll betray the other first. Matt, refusing to be broken, begins to play his own cerebral games from prison, dropping hints, making pledges, and hanging exposure in ways that suggest he still has a betters on the outside, turning Nick's and Jack's confidence into paranoia. The story barrels toward a breaking point as Nick realizes that jilting Matt in his box was only the morning of a agony he can't escape, because every taradiddle requires another, every crime demands a lesser one to cover it up, and the moral line he crossed that night is now a distant memory, blurred by fear and despair. In classic Young and the Restless fashion, the fallout is ineluctable and explosive, with alliances fated to shatter, families pushed to the point, and Nick forced to face the ultimate question: was guarding his family worth getting the veritably monster he's spent his life fighting against? Or has this deal with Jack sealed not only Matt's fate, but his own as well, icing that when the verity eventually comes out, As it always does in Genoa City, it will destroy everything in its path, leaving behind nothing but remorse, shattered commitment, and the haunting echo of a box slamming shut in the dark. Nick makes a deal with Jack and takes Matt prisoner, jilting him in his box. The young and the restless only grows darker and further violent as the consequences of that single, reckless night continue to ripple outward, transubstantiating fear into preoccupation and guilt into commodity far more dangerous, because after Matt is taken and hidden down under Jack's vigilant control, Nick finds himself twisting in ways he no way anticipated, waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, hearing phantom echoes of fists pounding against essence, imagining the suffocating darkness Matt endured in that box, and each time Nick tries to justify his conduct by telling himself it was necessary, that he'd no other choice, the taradiddle tastes bitter in his mouth. Jack, meanwhile, tightens his grip on the situation, moving Matt from one secure position to another, layering secretiveness upon secretiveness. And while he tells himself this is about guarding Jabot and negativing a trouble, the verity is far more unsettling. Jack has tasted power again, the kind that comes from controlling lives and information, and it awakens a ruthless band he allowed. He'd buried times agone. Matt, far from being silenced, becomes an unpredictable presence indeed in prison, his mind sharp and calculating as he examinations for sins, playing Nick and Jack against each other with subtle manipulations, suggesting he knows effects he hasn't yet revealed, intimating at contingencies that will spark if he doesn't resurface soon. And those hints are enough to shoot Nick into a breakdown as he begins to suspect that Matt's exposure may formerly be raising admonitions beyond Genoa City. As days turn into a tense, suffocating staying game, Phyllis grows decreasingly suspicious, her instincts honed by times of navigating deception, noticing Jack's agitation, his unforeseen secretiveness, and the way Nick avoids her aspect. Whenever Matt's name comes up, and she starts pulling vestments, asking questions that feel inoffensive at first but carry an edge sharp enough to draw blood, Victor Newman, no way one to sit idle when chaos brews, watches Nick nearly, seeing a shift in his son's address that feels each too familiar, and while Victor is no foreigner to bending the law, there's commodity about Nick's haunted look that unsettles him, making him wonder if Nick has crossed a line indeed Victor himself would vacillate to step over. The irony is crushing. Nick, who spent times ranting against Victor's styles, now finds himself lying with ease, diverting dubitation, and attributing immoral choices, and each successful deception only pulls him deeper into the mesh. Jack and Nick's alliance begins to strain under the weight of implied blame, with tense meetings filled with loaded silences and sharp exchanges, Jack averring that everything is under control while Nick pushes back, demanding consolation that Matt won't be harmed. Not realizing how concave that demand sounds given what they've formerly done, Matt seizes on this fracture, designedly, envenoming Jack while appealing to Nick's heart, painting pictorial filmland of the fallout to come, advising that people will suffer when the verity comes out, and those words burrow into Nick's mind like bane, eroding his resoluteness. Outside their secret war, Genoa City simmers with unconnected drama, commercial maneuvering, romantic backstabbings, family feuds, but beneath it all runs a current of apprehension, as if the megacity itself senses commodity-rotten corruption. Just below the face, rumors begin to circulate about Matt's unforeseen absence, and when a mysterious inquiry shells, an anonymous tip filed, questions asked by people with quiet authority, fear sets in, pushing Jack to consider further extreme measures, options he won't yet voice but that lurk dangerously close to the edge of no return. Nick, seeing the shift, confronts Jack in a heated exchange that lays bare their fear and mistrust, criminating him of losing sight of the original plan, while Jack fires back that Nick was the bone who put Matt in his box, that blood is formerly on their hands whether Nick wants to admit it or not, and that brutal verity shatters any vision Nick had left about being different. Torn between guarding his family and stopping Jack from going too far, Nick finds himself trapped, knowing that exposing the verity would destroy everyone he loves, yet allowing Jack free rein could lead to commodity far worse than hijacking. As the pressure mounts, cracks form in Matt's countenance too. his bravado giving way to moments of raw fear and despair, revealing casts of a man who knows he's running out of influence. And in those moments, Nick sees not a monster, but a mortal being whose life he's upraised, a consummation that makes the weight on his heart nearly unsupportable. Phyllis, grim as ever, edges near to the verity, making together timelines and inconsistencies, and when she confronts Jack with pointed questions, his protective response only energizes her dubitation, setting her on a collision course with a secret that could bring down not just Jack, but Nick as well. Victor, meanwhile, starts still pulling strings of his own, gathering information, testing commitment, and when he eventually corners Nick with the many precisely chosen words, it's clear he knows further than he's letting on, forcing Nick to defy the possibility that his father may